This timeline of events is fairly brief. The first thing that happened was that 2 days ago or so, an unknown user on Snapchat snapped me a photo of his dong. Normally, this would not raise too many flags. What does that say about present-day society? Because I'd heard many an anecdote about friends receiving dong snaps from unknown senders. However, my next decision sent the situation into a downward spiral. I made the mistake of humoring this creep. I sent a reply snap of my face, captioned, "Who sends dong pics to randos?" or something to that effect. He replied, not until 2 days later, so earlier tonight, with a nearly identical photo to the first dong pic, captioned, "Well, let's get to know each other better." From there, we exchanged a couple more snaps, mostly me flipping this person off and being generally snarky. But what was kind of weird here was the fact that all subsequent snaps he sent were photos of his dong, all from the exact same standing angle in the exact same location, a bathroom floor with a blue rug underfoot. Even though the exchange went on for about a half an hour. I don't know why I kept responding. I wish I had just blocked him. Now, things started getting extra bizarre. He claimed he knew me, and he was surprised that I didn't recognize his dong, because, allegedly, I had been riding it all night. The snaps now consisted of nothing but a black background with text. Now, the thing to know about me is that I've had sex with exactly 5 people in my lifetime, and each of them I knew intimately and have been dating. I do not have random hookups that I subsequently forget. I'm not a crazy partier and don't get drunk to the point of blacking out entire nights or events. But this person was admittedly insisting that he went down on me and we had sex. He claimed to remember my cute little landing strip, at which point I told him I knew he was lying just to get nudes or whatever else, since I've never groomed myself in that fashion. He persisted, so I asked for proof that we had indeed met and hooked up. He proceeded to tell me that he had attended a local college in my city, and correctly named the college I attended. He said we met out a certain strip of bars, which I do incidentally frequent, just before graduation. This was a few months ago, but as I only go out to bars in about 3 different neighborhoods, it was definitely a possibility I had been celebrating at this particular one before my graduation. However, I have absolutely no recollection, none, of hooking up with anyone during this time, much less having sex with them. The unknown Snapchatter then correctly named the location of 3 different moles on my body. Can this just be some bizarre coincidence? I do not forget people I've hooked up with, because, as I've said, they are few and far between and I am very sexually reserved. So at this point, I broke, and told the person they were making me upset, and to either reveal who they were or leave me alone. They didn't respond. I don't know how to tell if someone has blocked you on Snapchat. I'm fairly sure they did after this, because their handle no longer showed up in my recent added list, and a second snap I'd sent continued to show up as unread. Maybe I'm overreacting, but I'm genuinely scared. When this person revealed these intimate details they somehow knew about my body, I started crying. How is this possible? All possibilities I can think of are equally terrifying, which right now are pretty much. This is someone I once dated who was deliberately messing with my head for whatever reason. I had sex with someone at a bar and have 100% zero recollection of doing so. This has never happened to me before and I'm relatively tame. I never get blackout drunk and never never ever have sex with strangers. Was I drugged? Is something severely wrong with my memory? There's a person who has somehow been watching me closely enough to know bars I frequent, the college I attend, and certain minute aspects of my physiology, as well as my middle name. But that's a part of my Snapchat handle. Are there possibilities I'm missing? Please, help me out. I'm genuinely afraid and upset, and at this point, I don't know where else to turn. Who is this person, and why are they deliberately screwing with me? I never lock my bedroom door, but tonight, I think I will. If you're unfamiliar with it, Snapchat is an app that people can download for free on their phones, or tablets, or anything else. The basic point of Snapchat is to share pictures and videos with friends to let them know what's going on in your life. In essence, it's basically like Facebook, but centered more around pictures and videos of one's life rather than posts or media. I don't use Snapchat much myself, but I do have it installed on my phone just to see what's going on in my friends' lives, as well as send out the occasional snap to some of my close friends of what I'm eating or whatever else is around me. I also occasionally receive snaps from my friends as well. You know, typical stuff. Anyways, it was just last week when I received some pretty weird snaps from an unknown sender. It was a Wednesday night, and I was in my room studying for a midterm I had that week. To give you the full context as to why these snaps weirded me out so much, I have to let you know a little about myself. I'm currently a college student in my junior year, and I live alone in my apartment close to campus. It's within walking distance of the school, which is nice, as I don't have to go through the trouble of finding parking. The cost of living in my city is pretty low, and I value my privacy a lot and hate living with roommates. I did that in my freshman year of college, and I'll never do that again. Which is why I choose to live alone, considering how I could afford it. Many of my friends also either lived on campus or in other apartments nearby, so I was never lacking for company. The apartment itself isn't very large. It's small, but cozy, and has everything a college student living on his own could ask for. A kitchen, bathroom, living room, and 2 small but comfortable bedrooms. I'm a pretty big geek, so most of my apartment is filled with various superhero and video game merchandise that I've collected over the years. One piece of merch I was particularly proud of was a Superman figure I had purchased from a comic book shop for only $30. It was a steal, and I had it on the dresser in my room. Basically, to sum things up, I'm a college student who lives alone in a small apartment. Back to the main topic at hand. Like I said, it was a Wednesday night and I was in my room studying when I received a notification on my phone. Opening it up, I realized that I'd gotten 3 snaps on Snapchat. However, what was weird about these snaps was that they were from an unknown sender. On Snapchat, I mainly snap with 3 of my friends who are avid Snapchat users, and by now, I had practically memorized what their usernames were. This username was entirely different, and it was new to me. It made me curious. I have heard stories of how people have gotten weird snaps from strangers before, but it had never happened to me until now. I should have just deleted them and blocked the unknown user right there and then, but the curiosity got the better of me. I regret ever opening those snaps. Looking back now, it probably would have been a good idea to take screenshots of a few of those snaps I had received to perhaps use as some form of evidence. But the idea had never crossed my mind until now as I typed this. The first snap I received was strange, but Nothing too out of the ordinary. It was a picture of a lawn of grass, and it was too close up to see where this lawn of grass was. The second snap was where things started to get strange. It was a video, and the entire screen went black, as if the person recording the snap was covering his phone's camera with his hand. However, that wasn't the weird part. The weird part was the weird whistling I heard. I don't know how to quite explain it, but it sounded like as if he was putting his whole mouth really close to the phone, and whispering in a convoluted, jumbled mess. The third snap sent chills down my spine. It was the snap of a door. But not just any door. It was the front door of my apartment complex I lived in. The one where everyone walks into on their way to their rooms. Whoever was sending me these snaps, he was in a nearby vicinity. After I was done viewing the snaps, I immediately sent a message to the person using Snapchat's messaging feature. I had simply said, "Who are you?" A few seconds after I sent the message, I could see from the app's screen that he had opened it. There's a feature on Snapchat that allows you to see whether or not someone has opened your snap or read your message. Whoever he was, he had obviously been waiting a response from me. I held my breath and waited for a few seconds for this mysterious person to respond, but there was no response. After waiting for about 5 minutes, I simply closed the app and put my phone down. At the time, I remember I simply had no idea what to do. I looked out my window and didn't see anything out of the ordinary, or any weird figure standing on the street below or anything like that. Truth be told, at the time my midterm was my main thing on my mind. And so, after closing the blinds to my windows and making sure my door to the apartment was locked, I went back to studying. I didn't receive any more weird snaps from this mysterious sender, and the event eventually left my mind. I was pretty busy, as I had a pretty rigorous course load and was frequently loaded with essays and other reading assignments. So I didn't have much time to contemplate this. It wasn't until last night, Monday night, that I received more snaps. These ones were the ones that truly began to make me panic. I was reading an assigned reading for my literature class when I suddenly received 2 notifications from Snapchat. I had received 2 snaps once again from the mysterious person that had snapped me last week. Again, looking back, I wish I had taken a few screenshots of these snaps, but the thought didn't come across me until now. I'm gonna continue to kick myself even now. The first snap was eerily similar to the one with the whispering I had received last week. It was pretty much the same thing, except the whispering sound a lot faster and more excited, I guess you could say. The second snap was the one that truly frightened me. This was a snap that made me realize that something was very, very wrong, and that whomever was sending these was a bigger threat than I originally anticipated. At first, when I looked at the snap, it took a few moments before I knew what I was looking at. And then it sunk in. It was a picture of a doorframe, with the person taking the snap pointing his phone at it from the darkness of the hallway. Light was streaming from the room that the doorframe led to, and I could make out a few pieces of furniture, including a bed, a dresser, and a Superman figure on top of the dresser. I then realized that I was looking at a picture of my room. I felt the hairs on the back of my neck stand up as I began to realize what was going on. I vaguely remembered that I tend to leave the door to my room open. I slowly turned around, half expecting someone to stand in the door staring right at me. but there was no one there. I slowly rose from the chair and began inching toward the doorway. Looking out into the rest of my apartment, I saw that there was no one there either. I spent the next hour or so searching my apartment for any signs of intrusion, but there was nothing. I suddenly felt my phone vibrate in my hand, which I realized I had been holding the entire time. I had received another snap from the mysterious sender. It was a video. My fingers began shaking. I opened the snap and yet another obscured video with the whispering in the background. This time, the whispering was very loud and filled my entire apartment with noise. I didn't get to sleep at all that night. I just sat in my bed, every light on in my small apartment, a kitchen knife in my hand and my phone in the other. Nothing else out of the ordinary occurred.
This was a few years ago. I was about 18 or 19 and I had been single for a good while focusing on work and school. One day, I was at one of my really good friend's house. We'll call her Blue. I was at her house for a family barbecue. She was talking about this online friend she had, and she had showed me a picture, then telling me, "This is Ryan." She told me how they met, and he was 24. The age gap didn't really bother me, as she said he was just a friend, and Blue usually never met up with people she met online. I told her he seemed nice, and after a while, we had sat in her room, and she was on FaceTime with him. I was doodling in my notebook, and we had been dressed fairly nicely for the barbecue, so my hair and makeup were done. Anyway, at some point, Blue turns her phone, and she has Ryan say hi to me. I looked up from my notebook, and I waved, giving a small smile. I've never really been a sociable person. After a while of them talking, they had ended their chat, and Blue had looked at me, smiling like a devil. "The fuck did I do?" I asked her, and just as I had, my phone vibrated. I looked at my phone, then at her. I slowly flipped it over, and on my notification bar was my Snapchat. "So-and-so has added you." I opened it and saw a chat, and it read, "Hey, don't be mad at Blue, but I thought you were really pretty with your glasses and the way your hair looked. So I asked her to give me your snap." I felt my face then blush, as I don't really handle compliments well. Blue started laughing, and she said, "Come on, say something to him." I thought it was a bit weird that as her own online friend, he would ask for my snap. But nonetheless, being naive and trying to be nice, I responded. Ryan was nice, but something felt off during our conversation. When we talked about where we lived, I told him I lived in San Jose, and he said he lived in Livermore. Now, for those of you who don't know, they're about a 1-hour drive from each other, and at the time, my parents wouldn't let me drive that far. So for our first date, after much back and forth, we had planned to meet in Pleasanton, which is about 45 minutes. I hadn't taken into account the amount of freeway I'd have to drive, and Ryan said he couldn't make the drive because his mother had his car. Halfway there though, I got really anxious, and I had to call Blue because my GPS had been driving through the woods to get around the traffic. When I finally got to the destination, Ryan had arrived a few minutes before me. I got out, and I apologized for my arrival. He said it was no problem. We went in, and we proceeded to play some mini golf. After the sun went down, I checked the time, and I realized if I were to get home before curfew, I'd have to leave really soon. I had told Ryan that I had a curfew and just how strict my parents were beforehand. When I told him I had to leave, his emotion changed. He went from joking and polite to serious and annoyed. He kept asking and bugging me to stay even longer. "Would it really be so bad if you stayed? Just a bit longer. Can't we finish first?" I kept trying to let him down easy, but I eventually gave him a really firm no. We returned to the golf clubs, and I walked to the cars. Even though I was now feeling a bit off, when he leaned in, I gave him a small hug. But I wasn't ready when he pulled me in and landed a kiss right on my lips. I pulled back and said goodnight, jumped in my car, and then left. I called Blue and ranted to her about the whole thing. She tried to calm me down about the whole thing, saying it was just first date jitters and being out of the game. As I got close to home, we hung up and I tried to let it go. A few days later, I was at work, and during some dead time, I was on my phone chatting with Blue and Ryan individually. Ryan wanted to meet up again, and I was okay with it. He seemed a bit pushy, but I paid it no mind. However, I probably should have blocked him. When it came to the day for us to hang out, I was at work and my shift was almost over. Now, my work is only 5 to 10 minutes away from where I live, and I had never given Ryan my exact address or had it available on Snap. Anyways, when it came to the day of our planned meetup, we were supposed to meet up on the fringe of San Jose because I still didn't want him knowing where I lived. I had told Blue, and she knew the whole plan. When it came to the day of, I was a few minutes away from getting off work, and Ryan texted me on Snap. He said that he needed a rain check. I asked if everything was okay, but he said that everything was fine, and that his mom just didn't want him driving all the way over here. I said no worries, but was a bit irked. As I had defied my strict parents, I lied to them and drove all the way out there to see him, but I guess I could chalk that up to childhood differences. After all that, the irk feeling passed relatively quickly. I left the chat and I had messaged my cousin Benny and my other friend Rez. I told them that my date rain checked and that we should have a movie night. They both replied yes, and after I texted my parents, I had put down my phone and did some quick cleaning. After I clocked out, I had sat in my car and checked some of the messages I had. Ryan had messaged me saying something along the lines of, "Oh hey, never mind, I can come down." And I'd responded back telling him, "Oh, sorry. After you rain checked, I texted my younger cousin and we made plans." He immediately seemed angry. He wanted me to cancel, and we got into a small fight. He kept saying that I should cancel on my cousin, who's honestly like a little sister to me. When I told him no, he canceled first and we can just reschedule. He wouldn't have it. He eventually turned to Blue and started ranting to her. I turned off my phone and just went to pick up my cousin. We had our movie night and it was fun. But the next day, after I took my cousin home, I looked at my phone and saw a shitload of messages from Ryan. The last one terrified me. He said he was on his way to see me. I called Blue and my tone was angry, irritated. I wasn't taking any shit. I asked straight away if she gave my address to Ryan. She stopped and said no. She got the hint and she asked what happened. I told her that he said he was on his way, that he was driving somewhere into San Jose, which admittedly is a big city. She said that she didn't give it to him and that she could reach out to him to see what was going on. She never got back to me, and to clarify, she really never did give him my address, but I just got on with my day. I was due to dog sit my Nana's elderly dog. He was a small dog, blind, and pretty deaf. I carried him in the kitchen as any mess would be really easy to clean from the tile. One of my good friends, Sal, joined me at my house and we joked about watching movies. About an hour into watching Curly the dog, I got a call. It was Ryan. He said he was at Bogany Park and he was 3 blocks away from my house. I muted my call and I looked at Sal. She asked if I was okay and I put my shoes on. I asked him when he got there. He said he'd been there just 5 minutes. As we'd met before, he'd seen my car before and I was hoping he'd just drive straight through the park and not weave through the neighborhood. I checked on Curly quickly, and then Sal and I took off to the park. I walked a long way to approach from the opposite side of the park from where my house would be, and I saw him. He was just standing there doing backflips and looking around. Sal and I looked at each other, and we approached him slowly. He seemed like he was in a good mood, but I was still on edge. "Hey, so why this park?" was all I said. "Well, you said the drive to Pleasanton was too far, so I thought I'd come to you." I took a moment and I figured that I didn't really want to know how he knew where I lived, so I just shut him down. "Listen, you're sweet and thank you for coming out this way to, I don't know, say hi I guess, but this is a bit too much for me." He seemed really unfazed by what I had said, and he told me he drove all the way down here so we could hang out. I told him that if he had messaged me beforehand, I would have told him I'd be busy today. I was dog sitting and I wouldn't be able to. He said that we could just hang out here and that I could bring the dog and that we can just chill here. I told him that wasn't a good idea and the dog wasn't friendly. He offered for us to get into his car so he could drive us, or at least meet at my place. I knew that there was no more letting him down gently. I looked at him and said, "Look, you drove here some blocks from where I live. I don't know how you found this park, but I'm not interested. The weird kiss, the pushiness, I'm not into it. I'm not gonna get into your car. This is done. Go ahead, complain to Blue or whatever. You're giving me the creeps." At this point, I knew that my temper got the best of me. Sal had gotten into the conversation, and she then pulled me away for us to walk back the way we came. Another adult, a father to one of the kids at the playground, had taken notice of this, and he stopped him from following us. When I finally got home, I locked all of the doors and I blocked him on Snap and deleted his number. I gave Blue a call and I told her what happened. She calmed me down a bit and she told me she was going to block him too. It's now been 3 or 4 years, and I still remember how he tried to turn the whole thing on me. How he had called Blue and she just played along with it before hanging up and blocking him. We still don't know how he got so close to my house. After that, no matter how much I wanted to rebel against my parents, I was always very cautious when it came to dating.